This is our video introducing our project, Wrestle the Pigeon. Wrestle the Pigeon is a website that looks at listening habits of users and displays visualizations of their music data in conjunction with a live music database. My name is Aliana, and I was in charge of developing our website as well as obtaining data through API calls that could be displayed on the site using the Next.js framework. This includes the page routing and the site's user interface. Up here are different tabs that allow you to learn more about the site, as well as the prediction model that we have created. There's also an example page for those who don't have Spotify or are having trouble connecting their Spotify to the site. Our website has two major API calls, one to Spotify and another to the Songkick database. I primarily focused on the Spotify call. In order to see the Spotify data of our users, we have to follow Spotify's authorization process and register our app with Spotify in order to obtain a client key to make calls to the web API. You can see here when connecting your Spotify, you're taken to Spotify's website that has you log in and give permission. After you have successfully connected your Spotify, you will be taken to this page. Over here are your top 10 artists. According to Spotify, these are mine. And these artists are then sent with another API call to the Songkick database. And that is used to create these charts you see below. In order to display a chart on the site, I had to research different libraries that worked with the Next.js framework. I ended up using a library called Nevo that provides customizable charts and visualizations and imported that into our project. So right here are the top 10 states where all of your artists have performed the most, and next to each state is the total number of events for your top artist. Here it says all of my artists have performed in California about 1,400 times, according to the Songkick database. And below is the same, except it shows the bottom 10 states where my artists have performed the least in. And that is the majority of what I have done for the project.
Hello, my name is Nour Tanbal, and for Wrestle the Pigeon, I was tasked at understanding and obtaining the Songkick API data, using Python for making the Songkick API calls to obtain the artist data, and designing the graphics for our website. Because we wanted to make predictions based on a user's top artist in Spotify, we decided to work with Songkick API, where we focused on their API feature of an artist past event. To understand what the API offered, we looked at the object reference to see if we could find information on what country, state, or city the artist performed in. When looking at the attributes, we found that there was a location object where we could extract the location and use it to make predictions about the listener. An example of the JSON data shows the attributes in a similar format to a Python dictionary where the location had the city, longitude, and latitude as its keys. The next step would be to obtain the location of the artist and how many times they performed in that location. To start, I first made a request after setting up the URL with the key and the artist to get the artist ID. I then altered the URL to include the artist ID, where this would lead me to an artist past events. I decided to use a Python dictionary where the key would be the state and the value would be how many times that artist performed there. Then I referenced the dictionary on specific keys to obtain the location data. If the state was in the dictionary, then I incremented its value. If not, I added the state and set its value to be 1. I then sorted the dictionary to obtain the top and bottom 10 states and used pandas data frame to create visualizations. So for this example, we're going through each artist in my list, where my list just has one artist. So these are the visualizations for the top 10 locations and the bottom 10 locations. Lastly, I went into Adobe Illustrator to design the background images of our site. The idea was for the page to have a simple user interface where the user would not have trouble navigating. I was inspired by the images of people's features where there was both anonymity and inclusiveness. I wanted to incorporate a modern twist with a simplistic but interesting user interface and design. On the left, I created shades of skin tone to incorporate on the people, and on the bottom are the possible color schemes I had in mind for our page. I decided the first color scheme where it felt warm and comfortable without having any shocking or striking colors that outweighing the others. From the illustration and design of the page and the code used to obtain the data from the Songkick API, the next step was to connect a user's Spotify and develop our site. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David, a developer out of the ISTA program with a focus on being a full stack developer, and that is the role I played on this team. Starting with my achievements, I was able to have a site up and running early on. I knew we would be prototyping rapidly, and so I chose to set up our site using Next.js and Wrestle. This allowed us to publish our local work and have it in production in seconds. For Spotify data, I was able to successfully get quite a bit of users' metadata without having them actually log into their Spotify accounts. This mainly comprised of getting data on users' playlists and seeing how much useful information that contained. On the subject of Jupyter Notebooks, I was able to take existing code that Nour wrote and alter it so that it integrated nicely with Shravani's prediction model. Another key aspect of this task was creating an API out of that model. The idea of predicting where our users' top artists would be next was what we wanted to achieve. Unfortunately, creating an API out of a Jupyter notebook was much more difficult than we anticipated. I was able to achieve this on paper using ngrok. However, I ran into major issues using this library in production. And so we decided as a group to have this feature on our next release of Wrestle the Pigeon.
Hi, my name is Shravani, and I was tasked with creating a predictive model using Spotify data. As we discussed earlier, our idea was to create different models based on data from Spotify and understand users' listening habits and some of the data based on their artists. As Nour and Aliana discussed before, they kind of worked on building the website end of it, where they were building models that predicted the top 10 states and bottom 10 states where artists were performing, as well as the user's top 10 artists. I was tasked and created a model where it used Songkick's API to build a logistic regression model or a heat map that showed where the artist was most likely to perform next. So for this predictive model, we used machine learning to use previously collected data to predict an upcoming event, and some of the historical data that was from previous concerts and previous events. We created a logistic regression model by importing datasets from Songkick's API and tested the model for accuracy. Although the model is not super accurate, it's about 9% accurate. It is a heat map, so it does give you a general idea of where the artist is going to perform next. And we built it using scikit, which is a machine learning library, and used concert data from the Songkick API. Thank you so much for viewing our ISTA 498 Senior Capstone project, and we hope you enjoyed.